Before we get going with today's episode, being that it is Christmas right now, I wanted to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, a very happy holiday season. This is one of my favorite times of the year. Actually, it is my favorite time of year. And I know I don't talk a whole lot about personal stuff on here, but this is the time of year when family comes together and it just kind of makes me feel warm and full of love and everything else. Hopefully that goes the same for all of you. If not, then know that I love you and I hope the best for you in the remainder of 2023 and going into 2024. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get to working on some cars. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to get back to work on the Mark II. And as you see with everything I have laid out on the floor here, I'm going to start putting the subframe and the front suspension back together. So I have over here these 4 subframe bolts and subframe nuts that I went ahead and restored. So now I can go ahead and put the subframe in place, get it bolted down, and start building from there. So I think the only part of this that might be a little bit interesting or a little bit different than what I've done before with projects like this is I believe that I need to weld the front coilovers to the hubs. So normally it's just a bolted affair, but this old technology and old way that they did things back in the day is a little bit different. So we'll cross that bridge in a little while, but for now, let me go ahead and start reinstalling these parts. sure you were able to tell from the time lapse, my buddy Sean and I went ahead and got the suspension knocked out on the Mark II. So I went with BC coilovers all the way around, and like I said earlier in the video, the fronts were kind of strange in regards to how they mount to the spindle. So they actually weld to it, and I needed to cut the old front strut tubes off as they are integral to the knuckle or the spindle or the hub or whatever you want to call it. So I cut those to BC's specifications and recommendations, which are right here. They say you leave 50 millimeters off of the top of the spindle. I did just that, and everything sleeved and went together just the way that it should have. So I have my zinc powder coated sway bar in here, have the nice satin powder coated subframe. I went ahead and reconditioned the brake backing plates and obviously painted the spindles and all of that. Just trying to make this thing as nice as I can within reason. So front's all knocked out, the rear is knocked out as well, which is a little bit dark back here, but we have the BC struts, we have the springs with the adjustable collars up top, and now this thing is sitting on actual coilovers the whole way around, which is a huge step up from the old suspension setup. So today I began today by starting to recondition the steering rack, and it is right here, and it is right crusty as well. So I got to cleaning it, and bear in mind what you see right here is after probably an hour or so of cleanup work, and realized after that amount of time spent on it that it was never going to be pretty enough, and it was going to be an eyesore in the engine bay. So I went ahead and ordered a reconditioned rack, and that will be here hopefully in the next few days. And I can put that in, and I'm currently in the process of reconditioning the actual rack mounting brackets right here. They're sitting with a layer of etch primer that is drying up on them, and then I'll spray some more chassis black. This stuff right here, it is wonderful if you guys have never used it. So kind of at a point where I'm just sitting and watching paint dry for the time being, but the next order of business with this thing will be to actually put the engine in. So I believe that I can put the steering rack in with the engine already in place, judging by how all of this stuff fits on the subframe. That does appear to be the case. So that, even if the rack takes a little bit longer to arrive than I anticipate, it won't be the end of the world, and it won't hold up progress on the car. One other thing I wanted to make note of in this video, if you see the hoodie that I'm wearing, it's a new hoodie, and this is actually from my friend Vlad. So at World Cup this year, he did something pretty remarkable, and he took the synchronized manual transmission world record and, as far as I can tell, absolutely buried it. So with stick shift or manual transmission racing that you see nowadays, whether it be the Grubworm Camaro or the orange Grannis Racing Supra or any of the cars that are racing kind of at the tip of the spear in terms of manual transmission racing, they are all running either faceplated transmissions or dog boxes or things along those lines. It is nothing to take away from any of them, as the times that they're running, shifting through the gears, is absolutely incredible. But what makes Vlad's record stand out a little bit more is the fact that he's doing it with pretty much a street transmission. Granted, it is modified a bit. However, it's still a synchronized transmission. He's still fully clutch shifting on each one of the shifts. He was able to make a 759 at 184 pass. Now, prior to this, and I guess prior to him having reset the record, a guy named SW, if you guys have been around Supra stuff or manual transmission racing for any period of time, that name will sound very familiar. And this was back in, I'll put the year somewhere on the screen here so I don't misspeak. But he went, I believe, a 791 at 188. And again, I will put the actual time somewhere on the screen here, so that way my information and the information I'm providing to you guys is correct. Now, that record stood for a number of years, and while everybody else was going to these more race-oriented manual transmissions, Vlad decided to go at it the difficult route and stick with a synchronized transmission. It's either a V160 or a V161, and that would have been the manual transmission that came in a Mark IV Supra from the factory. So after a bunch of trials and tribulations and everything else that way, Vlad at this point in time with that 759 pass has essentially buried that record, and I can't speak enough about how incredible that is. So Vlad, a huge congratulations to you, and let's go ahead and roll the clip of Vlad's record pass right now.
That right lane. Vlad carrying the tires out there in the Supra and plants them. It just keeps her going. Top end from Yevtushenko, 759 with a 5 at 184 miles an hour. Doing a little bit of a wheel stand contest out there for the Yevtushenko. And that is a fantastic pass for that machine.
So between the first and second gear power wheelies and just putting together a crazy pass, that goes down, at least in my mind, as probably one of the most impactful Supra quarter-mile drag strip passes that has ever been laid down. So again, Vlad, huge congratulations to you. I'm happy to call you a friend, and I can't wait to see what you do with your car moving forward. just like that, after a long waiting period, but really only a few days worth of work, the Mark II is more or less back together. At least the big components are. So now it is sitting on some nice BC coilovers. The engine is obviously in, and the engine bay is painted, and everything is beautiful. So there's a lot to wrap up with this thing still, obviously, as when you get an engine in a car, it looks like it's done, but really you are just beginning at that point in time. So this thing is still a lot to come with it, and still a lot to happen with this project, but at least now I have a foundation that I can build upon, rather than just having a shell up in the air and an engine on an engine stand. So I have quite a bit of fab work upcoming, as this whole side right here is a blank canvas for me. And over in the welding room, I went ahead and got the fixture made up for the new manifold. So I'm not doing anything crazy with it, just building a factory replacement manifold. So this is the manifold that was on it, built a fixture for it, and I can build from there. So pretty easy and pretty self-explanatory that way, but I have some cool ideas for it, and we will get to that very shortly. But other than that, this engine looks incredible on this car. And yeah, I certainly could have put a 2JZ in it or something along those lines, but please remember that this car is one that my dad and I built years and years ago. So since he is gone now, this is an homage to him and what he wanted this car to be. He was one that was very big on original stuff. He was more of a restoration guy than a race car guy. So this was kind of the middle ground between crazy race car land and crazy restoration land. So it's a nice resto mod, and something now that all these years later I can update and make into something more modern with better components and, most importantly, better skills going into this project, because a lot of the things that I've uncovered in disassembling this thing and working on it leads me to believe that we really had no business building this car in the first place. But that is how you learn, and always remember that every expert was once a beginner. And obviously by no means am I calling myself an expert in any of this, but that's a saying that resonates with me and I think rings very true. So with the engine in the car and it, for all intents and purposes right now, back to being a roller, I think that will be about the end of this episode. So huge things happened, and a huge thank you to my buddy Sean for coming out and always lending a hand on all these crazy harebrained projects that go on around here. He's one of my best friends and somebody that I love dearly, and it's always cool to be able to work on projects with him and just spend some time together. So Sean, thank you very much, and keep your hands ready, because we're going to have a lot more to do on this thing very soon. But with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you guys, as always, for coming along on all these different journeys with me, especially as we get back into working on cars. There's a lot of cool stuff to come, and a lot of stuff I can't wait to take you all along on these journeys with me. So this thing will be really cool, and I can't wait to show you guys what I have planned for it, as well as some pretty interesting developments with this thing. But those are all things coming in the future. We'll have to wait a little while until we get to them. But for now, that's about all that I have for you guys. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, check out the website for manifolds, for merch, for all things good that way, and I will see you all in the next episode.
Shit,